Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Workman, CEO of Workman Success Systems, and welcome to today's Wednesday Flash Briefing. I am excited and I'm fired up. I'm feeling big today because I have a tremendous guest with me today, and I have to step up to the plate and actually be able to have a great conversation with this not only giant in sports, but giant in business. I have with me a tremendous guest in Mark Eaton. NBA All-Star, former Jazz player, a childhood idol of mine on our panel today. So, Mark, welcome to the call, and I'm so excited you're here with me today.
Well, thanks, Burl. It's great to be with you, and hello to everybody out there that I may have met before, and for those I haven't, hello.
So Mark, in the 80s, I used to be a sponsor of the Jazz, and I used to go to all the games, and we would sell our satellite dishes, and I would watch you and John Stockton and Karl Malone. And my favorite memories of Mark Eaton is blocking the legends of NBA coming into our house, and you just shutting them down one after another after another. I love that. You were just a force to be reckoned with.
It was a lot of fun, especially as we got a little bit better over a couple of years and then just started. It's really hard to win on the road, especially when you're trying to build a team, but you can always start with home dominance. And we became one of the most feared arenas to come to because we just killed it at home.
It was really interesting to me, the dynamics of, like, I'd never really experienced professional sports. And so as a kid, we could never afford tickets to anything like that. So as I kind of got into a place where we got to participate in that, it just changed my perspective on how much a crowd can play an impact on the performance of the people on the court.
Yeah, it can have a big impact, and it can get you energized. Or even if you're on the road and the other team's booing you all the time, that can energize you as well. But just having the energy of the people in the arena, and I think right now it's a little tough for a lot of people in sports because they don't have that. And you've got to dig a little deeper in this new arena we're playing in now to find your own motivation.
Yeah, that's so true. It's been weird watching the NBA Finals virtually with a virtual crowd. It's just a weird. Like, there's no energy that comes from that crowd to the players. They have to do it internally. It's different, isn't it?
It is. In fact, I just finished watching Serena Williams in the quarterfinals of the U.S. Open, and same thing. She's somebody who's always lived on the energy of the crowd, and she's pretty self-motivated herself. But it was kind of an odd feeling to watch her try and dig a little deeper because you don't have that. It's just you and the court out there, and even though with all the little fake videos and stuff like that they put up there along the sidelines, it's just a time when you really got to get more personal with yourself because you're not going to get it from the crowd right now.
I think it's so true. So, I grew up watching Mark Eaton play basketball and being a big fan. And so as a young man, I always thought Mark was bigger than life, and that was the mark he was going to make on the world, was his basketball mark. But now all of a sudden I've met you in your adult life as a professional speaker, as a thought leader, as a trainer, as an author, a developer of some of the most successful teams in industry and business. And I think that if it's possible to take an NBA All-Star and have him perform at a higher level in business and in life, you've actually accomplished that. And it's really cool to see this other side of you and to get to know you a little bit. It's been a really kind of an honor. We met in a crown room in Denver after a speaker conference. You remember that?
Yep. Yeah. Our flight that was delayed 6 hours for our 1 hour flight. But we had a great time, great conversation. It's been fun watching you and watch your business grow as well. And I've learned a lot from you along the way and helped me a lot in terms of launching my kind of coaching business now as the whole speaking world is transitioned into something new. And so thank you for that as well. But that was a fun conversation.
It was a fun, and it continues today. I think we're continuing to share and give each other ideas and how we can help each other. I want to just welcome everybody on the Facebook Live that's here. We have NBA legend and all-star Mark Eaton with us today, author of The 4 Commitments of Team, which is a phenomenal book on how to really build successful teams and the dynamics that make a team work. If you have questions for Mark's been gracious enough to say, put them into Facebook Live. I'm monitoring the questions. They're coming up on my screen. So if you'd like to know anything from Mark, type them in here. We'll just ask him as we go. And let's get into the commitments a little bit. So I had the pleasure of having Mark at a conference in January of this year, right before COVID hit, at our leverage conference. And Mark opened the conference with an unbelievable keynote, and everybody got copies of your book, and we still talk about it. So here we are months later, and I'm on a coaching call just yesterday when my client says, well, I've been doing the 4 commitments. And I just love that. I love that the impact goes way beyond the keynote speech.
Well, I'm grateful to hear that. And I'm grateful that 9 months later, they're still implementing the principles we talked about back in January, because there are some fundamentals of team that don't change. And that's what I bring to the platform and brought to the book as well, based on my own experience of kind of playing at the top level in the NBA. Because in the NBA, if you don't get team figured out, like, you're losing, and the chances are you're going to be traded next week, and you could be living in Cleveland a couple of weeks after that. So it's paramount and imperative that you figure it out like right now. And so I never, going into the NBA and playing the NBA, I never really thought that as being a unique perspective. But after I got out of the NBA and started my business career, I was like, wow, the things I learned in the NBA are very, very important, because we learned how to win in a very difficult competitive environment. And we had to learn how to win every day. Sometimes you'd have 5 games and 7 nights in 5 different cities. And you have to figure out a way to keep your edge and keep yourself going in difficult circumstances. And so it's been fun to bring those things to the business world.
So when you first started playing, when did you realize you couldn't do it by yourself and that the rest of the team mattered on the court? Because I would think, being your size, I mean, 7'4" is a force that you can block and shoot and run and do it all.
Well, you think that going in, and certainly in junior college, when I first coached, taught me how to play basketball to begin with, which I didn't start till I was age 21. And he gave me some basic fundamentals of the understanding of the game, the understanding of playing the center position, being the big guy out on the court. But as you go up in, more difficult competition, moving up the levels, you have to become even more specialized. And so I had an interaction with Wilt Chamberlain one afternoon that really helped cement in my mind what I needed to do out there on the basketball court. And he distilled the whole game of basketball down into something very simple for me, which was guarding the basket. And he said, that's something you can be really great at. That's something you can do well for a long time. And took the kind of the mystery out of the game of basketball, because I was trying to do everything, like run faster, jump higher, dribble the ball better, shoot better, all these things. He's like, that's fine, but to really excel, you're gonna have to find that one thing that you're excellent at. And he showed me what that was, and I listened. I was coachable, and said, okay, this is the one thing I'm going to focus on. And I took that one thing and turned it into a 12-year NBA career, because I understood how important it was to perform that role in the context of team, that everybody else could bank on that they know that I was back there, that I had their back, and they could go out and try and steal the basketball. And I became sort of the center of the defense. And that became my calling card in the NBA. It's one thing to make it to the league, and it's another to be defined by something special that makes you unique and brings your value to the team, and they understand that. And that's what I focused on.
So it's fascinating to me. So when you like you talk about coaching, and you talk about how you're coaching teams today, what are it's not the 4 commitments of a team. It's the 4 commitments of a winning team. And there's a big difference between just having a team and having a team that wins. Is it really a big difference? I mean,
it is a big difference, because I think the term team is overused in business today. Everybody says we're a team, let's get more teamwork. Come on. They don't really understand what it means. And so I bring that MBA perspective to, this is what I think it means. It's not about following a leader or having a new ideal or some new goal that you're trying to achieve. It's really about committing yourself to the people around you. And I think that's what makes a team. And that's what gets a team through the tough times like some of us are experiencing right now, is really being there for the people around you, being there for your clients, et cetera. And so that's one distinction that I see. And then the other things that, about focusing on the one thing that you do well, I think is so important as well as just being, starting from that place, because you can't do everything. And right now, some offices are cutting back, others are expanding, but there's all these dynamics going on around you. But you have to look at, what do I bring to the party, and what do I do well, and how can I help my teammates? And that is the beginning point of having a foundation of a great team.
So I think about that, and I always try and apply it to my own business. So I have the Workman Success Coaching Company, but also have the real estate teams that we coach. And so many people suffer from this disease I call "nobody can do it as good as me" syndrome. And that is that they feel like they have to do it all because they know that they'll do a good job for their clients. How do you get out of that shift mindset from no one can do it as good as me, to trusting the people on my team?
Well, the first thing is you have to understand that you are limited in what you can do. Like, you can't do it all. And no great company has ever been built by one person. Yes, they can have the vision and the mission behind them, but your ability to empower other people, even when they make mistakes, is, I think, paramount to building a great team. And great coaches understand, like, they don't, that you talk about Phil Jackson when he's coaching Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan. He said, look, I don't need you to score 50 points a night. I need you to score 30 points a night and get 10 assists. Because if you help your teammates win and get them involved, that's how we win games. And each of them had to learn that the hard way. They had to go to the finals, get clobbered, come back the next year and say, okay, I'm doing it differently now. I'm going to move the ball. I'm going to pass the ball. I'm going to get more guys involved. Because otherwise you end up with a group of teammates who are just sitting on the sidelines watching you dribble the ball and you shoot the ball and you do everything. And at the end, in crunch time, it doesn't work because the defense can just focus on you. And so I think that's the most important thing, I think, as a leader, is to really learn how to coach and empower the people that work for you. Because if they do their jobs well and they feel empowered about it and they feel like they can go out and make decisions, even if sometimes they don't work out as well, that's how they learn. And if you empower them to do their jobs, it's going to make your job that much more easier.
So what's resonating with me is that you help them get wins. You help them have success in their role.
Show them how to win. There's a great little book called Leadership and Self-Deception that was written by actually a group from Salt Lake City, the Arbinger Group. And it talks about the difference between having a conversation across the table from each other versus someone else sitting on the sideline next to you and you looking at the horizon together. And I think that's the attitude I always try and take in leadership and management. It's like, well, Verl, where are you going with your career? What do you see? Here's what we're doing here in our office. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. My role is this. And what do you see your role as? And how can we have a conversation about that where I can get you on board with our vision of where we're going, so that we get each other both in the same, on the same page, going the same direction. Because if you get the buy-in from them and they find their own answers to the questions that are most troublesome and the ones that they're really worried about, they'll be empowered to take them on. They'll feel challenged to go out there and accomplish it because they came up with the answer on their own. So your job as a leader is just to ask the right questions, see what they come up with, try and guide the conversation, but you want them to come up with their own answers, because when they come up with them, they'll be accountable for them.
I saw a team get eliminated in the first round of the final of the NBA playoffs this year that I thought were going to go further, and their star player had a couple of 50-point games, but they lost. So that's the whole perfect example.
It's the same thing. And I know who you're talking about, the Jazz, because as great as Donovan Mitchell is as a player, he gets in this mindset of like, geez, nobody else is scoring. I got to do it. Like, I got to get the ball. I got to go. And we saw this exact thing we're talking about in the last couple of games. We're down the stretch. It's, well, here's the ball, Donovan. What are you going to do? And all the rest of the other four teammates are just standing there saying, well, I guess he's going to score it every time. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And they become sort of disenfranchised, and they end up just being observers of the game rather than being in the game. And you want to make sure that all your people are in the game, that they have buy-in, that they're as excited about it as you are. And if they're not, it's simply because you failed to empower them somehow.
So that's so true. And it was really interesting to watch a real true star take over. And I thought that the difference between winning and losing was the engagement of the rest of the team. It was the engagement of the rest of the team. And I think that the Jazz are going to be great next year as he matures and he learns to incorporate and trust the members of the team. I think it's going to be fun to watch that progression.
Right. And it's the same principle where you have to go out and try it. And if somebody thinks they can do it all on their own, you're going to let them do it until they fall on their face. And that's sometimes the only way they learn, to go, okay, I guess what my old coach taught me, or my old boss taught me, I should pay more attention to now, because I've tried it this way. It didn't work. We didn't get the sale, whatever the case may be. Now let's go back and rethink and learn from that experience and say, what can we learn from this? What could we have done differently to make sure we got that contract, to make sure we got that sale, to make sure we got that listing, whatever it is, because that's the good stuff. That's the juice. And instead of just getting angry about it and like kicking the guy out of your office, it's like, no, let's revisit this. Let's learn from this, because that's all we do as coaches, is we try and look back at those situations and say, okay, what did we learn from this? What was kind of the missing link, and where did the conversation stop, and where did the buy-in stop, and why did this person stop listening at that point in time? Because they decided the information wasn't good, or they decided they wanted to try something different. They thought it would work for them. Okay, great. But again, we have to have that alignment and vision of where we're going. And so sometimes you say, well, I understand you wanted to do it that way, and it didn't work out. So let's talk about that. Let's see how we can fix it going forward. And if you
Right.
do it in a conversational way where it's not confrontational, it can be a great learning tool and a great way to bring up your people. I'll tell you one quick story in my book. There was a guy in the insurance business back in North Carolina, and he had a young guy that he recruited who took over a territory, and the territory wasn't doing that well. And he assigned another guy to kind of mentor him. And that guy got so empowered about what this guy was doing, even though he wasn't making money, he decided to share commissions with him to help him get going. And over time, that guy became the number one salesman in the company because someone was willing to take some time to coach him and be with him and show him how to do things. And, it turned out well for everybody.
So that's interesting that somebody was willing to give and share what he had so he could taste success, right?
Right. So he just get a little bit of it because he knew that it was a tough territory. He knew it was going to take him a couple of years to get going, but he also saw the basic skills and had a belief in the guy as a salesperson to make it happen. He's like, I'm really willing to bite the bullet for a little bit, even if it cost me some money to really show this guy that I'm here for him, because he knew it would pay off, and it did.
So interesting. So, all right. So I want to know, you've told me some stories. I don't know this side of you, Mark, but when I watched you on the basketball court, you were kind of fierce, like no bull crap. You're in my space and you're not getting to the basket. Like I don't see that side of you. You're kind of a gentle giant. I want to know, how do you turn the switch on that? And how have you taken the mental toughness from playing at such an elite level in basketball and moved it into the business world and team building?
Well, I think I've always had that competitive drive, even though it's not always outwardly visible. I want to win. I want to do things right. I want to do them the right way. And I think on the basketball court, I learned how to just push through stuff. And I also understood what my job was, as I talked about earlier. And my junior college coach used to tell me, your job is to walk around that key, that painted area under the basket each day and say, this is my house, and this is my house, and nobody's going to get in here. And when I walked out on the court, I knew there was other players that were better than me. I was playing against, Patrick Ewing or Akeem Olajuwon, whoever it might be. But on that given night, I said, I'm the biggest, baddest, what out there on the court.
Hombre.
And that's the belief I had of myself. What was that?
Biggest, baddest hombre. The biggest, baddest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we had other words we used. But anyway, that's what I believed in myself. And I think that's the attitude you have to have when you go to work every day, is that I'm going to be the best that I can be. Nobody's going to beat me. And yeah, there might be some things I need to learn. And as leaving the NBA and starting other businesses, I had to relearn again, learning how to do the speaking business. I had to learn all over again. You have just to start like you're a rookie and just say, hey, I don't know anything, and I'm going to learn from everybody I meet. I have had great coaches in both my basketball career and my business career. And those people have helped me tremendously maintain that edge and that competitive place, because they've shown me what it takes to win and what I have to do to win. And I don't always like doing the work, but eventually I do it. I'm not quite as quick at it as some other people are, but eventually I get it. When I really get it, it's cemented in, and then I go and I execute.
All right. So did you just go from, hey, I'm going to be an NBA all-star, I think I'll be a speaker now, and just turn the switch, and we're immediately great? Because I think isn't greatness born into you? You just become that because.
No, I don't think greatness is born in you. I think other people have belief in you that helps. Like I had coaches that believed in me. But as far as the participant side, I think that you have to be willing to say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be great, and I'm going to learn what I have to learn to be great. And that's the only way that I've been able to do it. So starting the speaking career, I didn't know what I was doing. I hired a local friend of mine who is a screenwriter person to write a speech for me. And it was okay. And then I found another coach who said, I will help you find your story. And she took my speech apart that I was doing. We started over, and it took us 18 months to recreate the speech. And I worked with her 3 nights a week on the phone for 1 to 2 hours a night while we dissected this. And I told her more stories, and we tried to find the best stories, and we tried to find the right points and really create something that businesses would benefit from that solved a business problem. It wasn't just about getting up there and telling some inspirational story. It was like, I need to bring to the platform something that's really going to help you in your seat in the last row, who's the person who knows nothing about sports. That's the person I needed to reach. And that took some time and a lot of faith on my part that we're going to come up with an end product that was really going to be remarkable. And we did. And it's carried me for 10 plus years since then, because we spent that much time building it at the beginning.
You know, it's interesting to me because I didn't get it when I first met you, and you told me the story that it took you 18 months to write your speech and go out there and deliver it at such a high level. But that speech and that I know you've edited it and changed it, and it's evolved over the years, but it's taken you all over the world. It's the lives of the people you've impacted because you took the time to do it correct the first time instead of just winging it. Really has made a big difference. How many companies would you say you've spoken to? Or how many people have you been in front of in the 10 years you've been speaking? Any guess?
Well, it's probably 600 to 700 companies. And yeah, it's been all across the United States and Canada and Mexico and everywhere else. So I don't know how many, you figure 200 to 300 people per speech, whatever that adds up to.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Is, probably a pretty big number. But the reason I do it, though, is because I know that it has an impact on people. So I'll tell you a great story that when I was first getting started, I spoke for a local health department, and I was the closing speaker. And this is all the people in the county health department, right? I mean, nurses. I mean, you got everything from people that run clinics to people that are doing restaurant inspections to water treatment and everything else, right? And they'd been there all day, and I was the closing speaker. So I gave my speech, and at 4:30, when it was over, they all got up out of their seats and ran out the door. Now, as a speaker, you're like, hey, did I do a good job? Hey, do you like me? And so I've got my little CDs. I'm standing over there hoping to sell a few of them at the end of the speech, right? And everybody's just like, whoosh, out the door, because they'd been there all day. They all lived locally, and it was time for them to go home. So I'm standing there kind of picking up my stuff and kind of feeling really sorry for myself. Like, well, I don't know. I think I must have really sucked today. And there was one woman who was kind of in the back, putting her stuff together, putting her computer away. And she came wandering out, and she was the last person. And she said, I just need to let you know that speech had a big impact on me. She said, I've really been struggling with something in my life, and that speech really helped me make a big decision that I needed to make. So thank you. And I was like, okay, done. That's why we're here today. and you move on to the next one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that we measure success by the number of coaching clients we get,
or
the number of,
hey, buy a book.
right.
Yeah. It's not about that. It's about the people that that write the nice note to you or tell you later that that really had a big impact on them. And that's why I do it. I like to sell books too, but the fact of the matter is, the reason I speak is because I've had great coaches in my life, and my ability to take some of those lessons and pass them on to somebody in the audience is really why I do it.
So do you mind give me an example of a coach that had a big impact on you, and maybe something that still resonates with you that you coach others to the same principle?
My junior college coach, Tom Lubin, who I write about in my book and I speak about, is the one who convinced me to leave my toolbox behind as an auto mechanic at age 21 and give basketball a try. And the reason I did that was because of his willingness to say, look, if you want to try this basketball thing, I'll be here for you every morning and every night, and I will show you how to do this. And so we'd run in the mornings, and in the evenings we'd go, and he just started showing me how to do some basic basketball things. And that belief in me is what gave me enough confidence to even try it. And later on, as time went on, so I went to junior college for a couple of years, which turned out pretty well. Went to UCLA, didn't play much at all, sat on the end of the bench, and was really thinking again, like, basketball's probably over for me now. And he kept saying, look, you got to come up with little things to keep you going. If you're not going to play in the games, you're going to have to make the practices your games. You're going to be the first guy to practice and the last one to leave. Do your shooting, shoot your hook shots, go to the weight room. And so that belief in me, I think, is what really carried me, because I I didn't have a belief in myself all the time. And when things weren't going well, I got really down on myself and I just felt depressed. And like, this is going nowhere. I spent all this time preparing. I've done all these things. I've worked out. I've been in the weight room. And Tom just kept saying, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep working. And I did. And then when I got an opportunity to try it for an NBA team, yeah, I was a little rough around the edges, but I had done enough work where the coaching staff from the Utah Jazz said, yeah, we'll give you a shot for a year and see how it goes. And so, that commitment to me, that loyalty to me, and that gentleman became one of my best friends for 43 years. He just passed away about 3 weeks ago. And it meant so much to me. And my speaking coach that I worked with helped me write this speech. She's like, Mark, nobody has relationships like that. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, doesn't everybody have coaches and people? I hadn't really thought about it because when it happens to you, you just don't think about it being that special. And then the more I thought about it, I went, wow, it is. It's just such a unique relationship to have somebody who I could call in the middle of the night when I'm stuck in Philadelphia and it's 10 below zero and I can't buy a rebound to save my life, to have somebody I could call and talk to and say, hey, how's it going? And we'd chat about the game and about this and the other, give a couple of tips and I'd be good to go again. That's just something that was just invaluable to me. And again, a real rare trait.
When you try and describe what coaching means to you, I feel the same way, Mark. I've had these people in my life and I continue to have them that they're willing to tell you the truth and they don't have an agenda. It's just born out of love, I guess is the best word. And
How can I help you? Yeah.
Right. And they tell you the truth. And sometimes it's not what you want to hear, but it's what you need to hear that'll help you make those changes. We need more of that. This is just a Verl question, but out of curiosity, how has what you've learned being coached and developing and coaching others affected the way you parent and the things that you've taught your children?
Well,
I'd like to ask your kids that question.
Assuming my kids wanted to hear it. I think that the biggest thing I've learned is that they have to make their own decisions. So my kids are all, the youngest one's 24, but they're all older now. And I think as time has gone on, they say kids learn most of what you're going to teach them by the time they're 7 or 8 years old, right? And so you think you're having this impact on them as they grow older than that, but I'm not sure you really do. I think that what you give them as a foundation, those early years, is so important. And then after a while, they have to figure it out on their own. And hopefully you've given them enough skills to make decisions that they make the right decisions. And of course, they always don't. But I've had to learn that the best place to be is to back off and let them kind of fail, for lack of a better term, in certain situations, because bailing them out is not going to help them. And boy, they get mad about that sometimes. But that's what my father did for me when I was 18. He was like, okay, you're out of here. Where are you going? And I went to trade school, but I learned how to survive on my own. And I think that's just a skill that's so challenging for a lot of younger people today. So I think that's the part that I've learned as a coach, is that I can ask questions and I can help you discover for yourself what it is that you need to do. But beyond that, it's like, other than encouraging you, like, you have to go do the work. And not everybody wants to hear that.
No, but it's true. If you don't put in the work, you can have the best coach in the world and it's not going to make a difference.
Right. But we can help you prioritize. We can help you discover what is the shortest distance between you and a check. Little things like that, little tricks that we learned over the years to help kind of take the mystery out of all the options and all the things you have on your plate. Should I do more social media? Should I do this? Should I do that? We all struggle with that as entrepreneurs, and we need coaches in our life to say, no, look, like, get on the phone and call some more people that can hire you to speak or to coach or whatever it is, or to get a listing or whatever it might be. Because that's an action item that's going to produce results, versus some of the stuff that happens in our brain that we think, oh, I need to do this. I got this. And here's my long list of my to-dos I've got to do. I've got to follow up with this. And I need to get these pictures ready to go online. No, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes we miss that as entrepreneurs. We just get too caught up in ourselves.
And you can add that to as dads, as entrepreneurs, and as fathers, we sometimes miss some of that stuff. I know that whenever you and I have talked about your kids and you start talking about your illustrators and the amazing things they're doing, that you light up like any father that I've ever met that's proud of their children. It's really fun to see you get excited and celebrate them for who they are. And I think
Yeah,
that's really cool.
it is, and it's fun when they do get it and they get something going. And a couple of our daughters have been able to, as you mentioned, illustrate some books. They're amazing artists, and I found a friend of mine who does children's books, and we're writing one ourselves. And the girls have had a number of successes now illustrating children's books, and it's been really fun because the guy that we're working with is knows how to sell them, and so that makes it even more exciting.
So I just love that. I know that you're proud, and I get excited when I hear you talk about your daughters and how well they're doing and how they're making their own way in the world. It's just fun. It's fun to see that. I work with my kids, and sometimes I have to get out of being coach dad and just be dad and just celebrate them for the individuals that they are instead of for who I'm trying to coach them to be, because they're all unique. They're all so different, and they all have such amazing ways of looking at the world.
Yeah. I've one son who's tried a variety of different things and finally landed on long haul trucking. That's what he likes to do. And he gets his dog. He gets in the truck, and I think today he's on his way to Texas or somewhere. So with a load of frozen green beans. So
hey, we're grateful for him. I'll tell you, with all the crap shutting down.
People are going to be waiting for some food down there in Texas.
That's right. That's right. There's a lot of gratitude. So let's go through really quick and just share with me each of the 4 commitments and what they are.
Okay, so the first commitment is called knowing your job. It's that lesson I learned from Wilt Chamberlain about focusing on the one thing that you do well and learning what that is. We all have character traits and skills that we're good at and we try to do, and it's our job to try and figure out what our number one trait and skill are and focus on those things. It's not about your weaknesses. It's about playing more to your strengths and doubling down on those. Number 2 is about execution. It's about doing what you've been asked to do. And it's not about doing your best. It's about doing what you've been asked. That your job in business is to do what others ask you to do. It's not always to do what you think is best. So, how clear are you about what other people want from you on a scale of 1 to 10? And when's the last time you asked them? Number 3 is about making other people look good. It's about focusing on being there for the people around you. That if you make other people look good, you're going to look better to them, right? And so you really want to make sure that you ask yourself, am I really focused on helping other people in my business, or I'm just focused on myself? And if I was to rate myself on a scale of 1 to 10 of making other people look good, like where would I rate myself? And then that includes at home, like making your spouse look good, et cetera, by asking the question, like, what else could I do for you? And then the last one is about protecting others. What I did well on the basketball court was I protected my teammates. I was there. I gave people an opportunity to go out and try and steal the ball because they knew that I had their back. They knew that they could count on me. And I believe that's the key to trust. And that's the key to loyalty, is really being there for other people. Now, I don't have to go to dinner with you every day or anything like that, but I always want you to know that if you work with me, that I've got your back and you can come to me and talk to me. I may even have to fire you at some point in time, but I still have your back. Like, I'll help you as long as we end things on a good relationship. I'll do whatever I can to help you succeed somewhere down the road. And so I think that's what the tenets of a good team are, being there for each other, about making them look good, about execution, and number 1, staying in your lane and focusing on the one thing that you do well and understanding what that is. Because when you honor your role out there on the team, you allow other people to honor theirs. And I think that's the key to a good foundation of a team, is really allowing other people to honor their gifts and their strengths and their skills, and understanding that those are all core components of a great team. Just like I know you guys teach DISC a lot, same kind of principles. It takes a little bit of everybody to make a team work. You can't all be Ds, you can't all be Cs.
Thank heavens.
What's that?
Thank heavens we all can't be Ds. That's a blessing.
No, I know they're probably World War III. So, but without Ds, we probably all still be living in caves somewhere, right? So, because the Ds are the one that get out there and say, "Come on, let's go." And we're very appreciative of all those Ds.
So, Mark, something just clicked for me, and I just got it. So my son over the weekend played in a soccer tournament, and they're 15-year-old boys, and everybody's supposed to be wearing masks or whatever, but they're actually playing, which is a great thing because he was climbing the walls. And after losing a game, their coach sat them all down and said, okay, guys, so everybody has their favorite positions, but I'm going to put you where the team needs you the most. And he put the strongest players on the defensive line. He put kids that you don't usually play up front as strikers and said, I need you to shoot the ball. And it was really interesting to watch this team, without complaining or whining, change the positions they played in, because that's what the team needed. And then they went out and they won their next couple of games. It was fun to see them in the finals of the tournament, because they changed their roles and responsibilities. That never clicked for me until you just said it. But it was the coach's responsibility to see the game from a different perspective, and then help people be in the right roles, and then clearly communicate to them what their role was in this moment in time. That's just like, that was like I don't even think he realized how impactful that is, but he was demonstrating the principles that you just went through.
Yeah, I think that's just a critical component of team, of really understanding who your teammates are and what they do. And I liken that to, like, speaking to engineering firms. Sometimes, people get so down in the details of the engineering that they don't understand who the customers are at the other end. And so sometimes I've coached leaders to take those engineers out on sales calls with them, so they can see who the end user is and what's really going on the other side of the computer, right? Because they're not known for having their ability to see a wider focus of things. They're very narrow focused, which is great for what they do. But sometimes just changing the perspective and changing the paradigm can completely open up your world to what you really need to do to be successful, and how to engage better with customers and clients and the people that you're trying to sell to. And so, yeah, that's a great story. And I love that one. I'm so glad that coach did that.
So you keep giving me these aha moments today. And so I didn't know if you knew this was going to be a coaching of Verl. You're coaching me today. You said something that is resonating with me. You said that's one of the components of a team, is everybody working together and seeing things from the other people's perspective. But what I heard is that how important it is as a coach to help each other see things differently from each other's perspectives. I don't think you realize, maybe you do realize what a great coach you are, but your life experiences and all the years you've spent being coached are what make you such a good coach. And it's natural for you. You do it just in general conversation without even knowing that you're doing it. I'm excited for this next level of business that you're building. You're building a whole coaching program. There's thousands of people that have heard you speak, that have heard the concepts, but they haven't been able to see clearly how to implement them in their lives. Tell me how coaching changes it from hearing it to actually doing it. And what do you expect as the results you get?
Well, I think it's hard sometimes in even a 1 hour visit with somebody, learning some new concepts, to really implement them. And as you mentioned, the things I speak about do resonate with people, but it's always the implementation that can be sometimes challenging. We have a tendency to fall back into our old habit patterns when we go back, and so sometimes having a little catch-up call or ongoing coaching relationship to help cement those in and really find out what are the outcomes we're trying to achieve here, and how we're going to apply the commitments to those outcomes, so we're making measurable success. So we're moving the needle in a purposeful way, I think, is the biggest reason to bring on a coach. Because it's everybody says, oh, I'll go watch some YouTube videos, or I'll listen to some more CDs, or whatever it is that you're going to do. It doesn't work. Like, you need somebody there who's going to say, okay, what did we accomplish in the last week or the last month? And where are we at in this? And we'd set these revenue goals, and we'd set these goals for hiring somebody new, or whatever it might be. Where are we at? Where do we stand in those things? Well, this happened and that happened. Okay, well, it's the coach's job to go back and say, well, what are the priorities? What are the things that are really going to move the needle the fastest? Is you hiring somebody and not doing that other person's job all the time, right? Like, you bring somebody else in here, or getting on the phone, or empowering the salespeople, or having the meetings that you need to have with the key people to get them on board and empowered. That's what makes a team come together, and you build that rapport doing that. And that's when the great things start happening, and you get in the quote unquote zone of business of making stuff happen, because you've taken the little steps to make sure that all the cylinders are firing. And I think if you're able to do that, that's when the engine starts going. You start going down the left lane of the freeway instead of running around on all the off ramps all the time.
That's so cool. So tell me about your coaching program. What is that going to look like, or what does it look like?
Well, the coaching program right now is based on the needs of your particular business, and there's certain things that I bring to the party that we've talked about, but it's really an interview process of going and looking at what your sales team is about, what your objectives are, identifying some of the barriers that are holding you back from really supercharging your team and getting everybody moving, and then designing a program around that based on the outcomes that you're looking for. It's not, as you mentioned, I've had a lot of great coaches. I have a lot of experience in coaching. And so I'm pretty good at listening and discerning what are the key elements. So for instance, I was talking to a company in the last week, and they're trying to figure out, now they can't go face-to-face meeting with so many customers. How do they bring value to their relationship with those customers, as opposed to, they used to be able to go in their office and find out what they needed and prescribe a solution and sell them the stuff, and they were just killing it prior to COVID hitting. Well, now the conversation's changed. Now they've got to provide, how do we find new ways to engage with people without quote unquote selling to them, right? We've got to find new ways to do that. Well, in the conversation with the general sales manager, I found out the biggest issue is that some of these sales guys who are rock stars 4 or 5 months ago are now finding that they're having a tough time, and find that they have to spend more time coaching the other people that they're with, and they're not doing a very good job of it, and everybody's a little kind of out of sorts. So we have to go back and restart with the fundamentals of what a team is and what a team looks like, and why are we on a team, and what are we trying to achieve, and let's find solutions together to those questions of how to provide more value to our clients. And I believe that those guys have those answers if I ask the right questions. So, and then we're going to put together an implementation plan of how to achieve those, and then from there we go from there on what does the follow-up need to look like, how often do we need to meet, et cetera, et cetera.
I love that. A couple of comments on our Facebook Live. One is Tammy in Texas says, "Yay, we love green beans."
They're on their way, Tammy.
Bring them on down. Bring them on down. Mark Deering says that I just love this. You have a lot of people that are quoting you, such great wisdom from the HIP Realty Group. Taryn says vision, core values to assist, and that's what makes it all happen. So you have a lot of fans out here, a lot of amens and high marks and things like that from our group. And I just encourage anybody, if they have a question for Mark, to ask it. Well, I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for the clients that are wise enough in their business to choose you as a coach, because they have no idea the amount of wisdom that they're subscribing to by investing in bringing you on to help their teams, whether it's in safety or sales or whatever kind of team they're needing to build. You have such a unique perspective at being coached at the highest levels that you can possibly perform at, and then bringing that into the business world. And not very many coaches have your analytical mind, your ability to ask those deeper questions and go deeper to find the real solution. And I think for me, when I listen to you and when I talk to you, you're just such a great example of, I'd rather do it right than do it quick.
Yeah, and I beat myself up about that at times. Thank you for that, for pointing that out, because I do think it's got to go faster sometimes. And what I've learned is that consistent progress is more important than some big spike in the, I mean, I'd love to have the big spike in the sales, but the consistent progress of just doing a few more things every day, they build on themselves, and being willing to kind of take the next little risk or the next little step is really what's got me to where the point I'm at today in my life and my career. And so I have to listen to my own advice sometimes, which is really hard. But it's really about that consistent progress. And, I have this friend, Mark LeBlanc, who wrote this little book called Growing Your Small Business. And he says, what are the 3 things that you're going to accomplish today that you're going to get done no matter what? Could be 10 o'clock at night because other stuff pops up during the day. We have other crises that show up and stuff we weren't counting on. And what are the 3 things that I'm going to get done today, no matter what, that I'm going to commit to accomplishing? And when I break it down into little chunks like that, that makes such a big deal for me because I'm like, okay, well, I can send this email and I can return that phone call. And those are the little things that I know that I can get done. And that's what keeps me going.
I love that. Just it's such a thoughtful approach to accomplishing great things in your business and in your life. So, what do you see for the kind of the future of professional speaking as a grounded speaker? There's not a lot of people doing keynotes right now. We've all been grounded. For those of us that speak for a living, how has
Well,
this changed your perspective on what's going on, and what do you see coming up?
well, I think it's evolved. I think we went from, well, I guess we're just going to have a bunch of Zoom calls to now we're going to bring a speaker in, but it's going to be in a studio setting like you're in right there. To the next level is a hybrid, which is some people are going to come and show up, and other people are going to be probably online. And so we're going to bring in the AV team to not only do a live event in wherever we're going to meet, but then it might be the majority of our people are going to see it virtually. And so having a plan around that and figure out what that looks like, and how do you do a good virtual presentation, and how do you make it engaging? Because that's the biggest challenge for everybody online, is like, well, I don't want to sit and listen to this guy for 45 minutes. Like, how am I going to make it engaging with the customers and the clients? So I think it will come back. I follow some of the meeting industry professionals online, and we are starting to see a little bit of thawing out in that department, especially as it relates to 2021. So I think it's going to come back. And who knows what happens after the election, right? But I think people just can't sit there. So many idle convention centers and cruise ships and hotels and everything else. I mean, this whole giant industry that's just sitting on their hands right now, and I don't think that's going to last. Like, somebody's going to figure it out. It might be 6 feet apart chairs and no buffets or whatever it is, but their people have to get back together. There's no way not to do it. And we saw the same thing in 2009. We had the economic crisis, and everybody thought, oh, everything's going online now. People will never get back together again. And it's not true, because we work well, we network, and we can really only do it face to face. Zoom just doesn't get it. And people that will and truly build relationships, it has to be done in that manner. And I think that in time, everything is going to go back the other direction.
What's funny is that there's a lot of companies out that are looking for, they want to do their events virtually, and they are also asking for deeply discounted fees. But what I'm finding, this is me personally, it's hard. It's much harder to motivate or inspire or lift up an audience when they're not in front of you. And then they say, and I think this is you that told me this, they're like, you have a 55-minute speech that took you 18 months to create, and they're just wondering if you could just do it in 20.
Yeah, I did one for a big, high-level insurance company last week for 30 minutes. I did it, and I hated it because it was so difficult to be inspiring and engaging, and you have to compress everything and cut a lot out of good stories out and things like that. But on the other side of it, they know that engagement only lasts for like 30 minutes. So right. It takes more time to prepare. It's more stressful. I'd rather go to talk to 2,000 people live than I would do a virtual presentation. That's my personal opinion. However, I'm learning how to do them because that's what the market is right now.
Yeah. And I'm sure that for the people that heard you for the very first time, that 30 minutes changed some lives. I'm sure it was very impactful.
I know. I take some solace in that I've done it a lot of times. I have good material. I know it's well written. And sometimes when you're not feeling the love from the audience, so to speak, you know that your writing is solid. And so people will get value out of it. But I would have much rather have been there live and in person, meeting those people and talking to them, because that's where I know the real engagement comes from.
Time flies by us, just you and I talking. I could talk to you for a couple more hours. Mike Koch asked a question, and he's a Wisconsin, one of our friends up in Wisconsin. Mike says, what are your tips for improving the culture and bond and cohesiveness of a team? Do you have any?
I think it starts with understanding what the people want on your team. Like, where are they coming from? What are their career objectives? Why are they there? Why do they work there? Because I think from that common place, you can start to build some of those things. And I think regularly in engaging them with conversations like the 4 commitments or other speakers that have good tips is just creating something common to talk about that's not about just the day-to-day business. Like, let's take a step back for a second and have a meeting and talk about culture and where we're going and what our company stands for. Why are we all here? Why do we work in this industry? Any of those kind of conversations, I think, are a good place to start. And that gives people a sense that you care more about them there, other than just executing their job on a day-to-day basis. That like, oh, this is something that's a little different for me than usual, and gives people a chance to unwind and think a little bit that has nothing to do with did you get all those contracts out today, or did you get 5 more closings, or whatever it is that the numbers that you usually pay attention to on a day-to-day basis. And I think studies have shown that most people work because they want to feel like they provide some sort of value. The money, everybody needs money, yes, and that's an important thing, but it always is number 2 or 3 down the list of what gives them the most satisfaction. And so finding those first 2 or 3 items and addressing those, I think, is just key for building that culture.
Thank you for that. And that's just sage advice. Matter of fact, with that great advice, I want to wrap it up today. Mark, if somebody wants to hire you or get you as a coach, how do they reach out to you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
My website is 7foot4.com, and it's just the number 7 FT and the number 4. You can Google me. There's a form on my website that's easy to fill out. And my phone number's there and everything like that. And so I'd be happy to set up a 20-minute conversation with anybody, and let's figure out what we can do and what your team really needs.
Well, I appreciate that. And from all of us at Workman Success Systems, we have just benefited so much from our relationship. Thanks for being such a giver and sharing with us your insights and helping us be a better team. And
you are most welcome, Burl. And thanks for all the things that you guys do. You've helped me a lot with your coaching clinics and the different things I've been able to attend. So keep up the good work.
Thanks, Mark. And thanks for being with us today, everybody. Thanks for joining us on another Wednesday Flash Briefing. We'll see you next week. We're looking forward to another great guest. Until then, stay safe and have fun.